how every glance, every word, every moment fragments inner energy, clarity, and peace into self conflict. When I say how every glance, every word, every moment fragments inner energy, clarity, and peace into self conflict, this is what it means. A glance is seen. In itself, it is nothing, no meaning, no demand. But thought enters and says, this matters. At that moment, energy no longer moves as one. One part wants, one part resists, one part compares, one part remembers, one part imagines. This is fragmentation. A word is heard. In itself, it is sound. But thought says, this elevates me, or this diminishes me. Now energy splits again. One part defends, one part attacks, one part proves, one part hides. This is self conflict. A moment passes. In itself, it is complete. But thought says, this should have been different. Now clarity breaks. Clarity requires one direction. Self conflict requires many. Peace does not leave. Peace is broken into parts. Each part argues with the others, not loudly, constantly. That arguing is what is felt as suffering. Nothing outside fragments the human being, not the glance, not the word, not the moment. They only expose the habit of division. The moment energy stops splitting itself into meaning, memory, and projection, peace is already there. It was never missing, it was divided, that is all. When I say every glance, every word, every moment, I'm not trying to say that glance is bad. I'm not trying to say words are harmful. I am not trying to say women should be avoided. A glance is just visual input. A word is just sound. A moment is just time passing. None of these fragment energy by themselves. How inner energy gets fragmented. Fragmentation happens only when thought enters and claims the encounter. You see a glance. Thought says, this means something about me. Now energy splits. One part moves toward desire, one part moves toward resistance, one part moves into memory, one part projects a future, one part compares with others. Earlier, one direction, now many directions. That splitting is what I'm trying to say. Divided inner energy. How clarity is lost. Clarity requires one direction of movement. The moment energy is split into 10, 100, 1,000 micro thoughts, clarity cannot exist. Not because clarity left, but because clarity cannot operate in a divided system. This is mechanical, not psychological. How peace becomes self-conflict. Peace is not an emotion. Peace is absence of inner argument. The moment energy divides, each fragment pulls in a different direction. One fragment says, go toward this. Another says, avoid this. Another says, prove something. Another says, protect yourself. Now energy is not flowing. It is negotiating with itself. That negotiation is self-conflict. Why it feels like 1,000 thoughts. Originally, there was no thinking. There was movement. Thought multiplies movement into commentary. What was once one clean impulse becomes evaluation, justification, fear, desire, regret, fantasy, defense. That multiplication is what you experience as 10,000 thoughts. Nothing outside you is fragmenting you. The glance did not do it. The word did not do it. The moment did not do it. They simply trigger the habit of division that already exists. When energy stops turning encounters into meaning, division ends by itself. Peace doesn't arrive. Conflict ends. That's the difference. The fragmentation of a single flame. There is at the start of every day a single flame. Not motivation, not discipline, not intention. Just energy, bold, quiet, directional. This energy does not need purpose. It does not ask where it is going. It moves naturally like a river moves downhill. Then the world appears. Not loudly, not aggressively, casually. A face is seen, a body is noticed, and immediately the flame fractures. Not because of desire, but because comparison enters. Others have lived this, I have not. Something is missing. The body was neutral, the moment was clean, but the mind narrated lack. And the single flame splits into imagination, into future projection, into borrowed standards, into social memory. Nothing real was encountered, yet the energy is now scattered across fantasies that never asked to be entered. Status is not an encounter, it is a recall. Another moment appears. A man plays status. Not overtly, not cruelly, but the mind remembers. A past voice. A comparison once spoken. A hierarchy once imposed. This is not the present, yet the energy does not know time. So it splits again. One part defending, one part justifying, one part proving, one part shrinking, one part planning revenge, one part planning redemption. The body is standing in today. The mind is fighting a war that already ended. The flame is no longer a flame, it is ash spread thin. Comfort is the most subtle thief. Then comes work. No pain, no resistance, no difficulty, just a whisper. Slow down, rest, tomorrow. Nothing is wrong, yet the flame fractures again. One part wants depth, one part wants ease, one part wants pleasure, one part fears effort, one part fears wasted life. This is self-conflict. Not laziness, not lack of discipline, but energy arguing with itself. A house where every room is occupied by a different voice. Noise does not enter, it is invited. Sports, auctions, trends, gossip, these things do not pull energy, they absorb abandoned energy. Energy that has already been split looks for somewhere to go. So it goes outward, not because it is interested, but because it cannot remain whole anymore. This is why afterward there is not pleasure, but emptiness, not stimulation, but dullness, not engagement, but loss of gravity. What is actually happening? Nothing is wrong with the desire, nothing is wrong with attraction, nothing is wrong with ambition, nothing is wrong with comfort, nothing is wrong with information. The problem is multiplicity. A single direction cannot survive in a mind that negotiates with every encounter. Each thought does not add weight, it divides force. 1,000 light thoughts do not equal one heavy silence. So life feels scattered, not because it is busy, but because it is unintegrated. Clarity is not achieved, peace is not cultivated, focus is not built. They remain when energy is not split. The world is not noisy, the encounters are not traps, the situations are not enemies. The mind that comments, compares, remembers, imagines, and projects is what divides the flame. And a divided flame cannot burn, it can only flicker. So, when energy is whole, desire passes through without residue. Status does not register, comfort does not seduce, noise does not attract. Not because of control, but because there is nothing inside negotiating with it. Silence is not created, it is what remains when fragmentation ends. That is all. How a human being loses himself in a single day. In the morning, there is something bold. Not joy, not ambition, just undivided presence. Nothing is missing, nothing is out. Then the first encounter arrives. A thought enters and says, others have lived this, you have not. There is something to gain. And what was one becomes many. Energy moves into imagination, into comparison, into a future that never asked to be entered. Nothing happened, yet something was lost. Later, another moment. A voice carries status. A poster carries hierarchy. No insult is spoken. Still, memory wakes up. A past sentence, a past comparison, a past wound. The body stands here, the mind fights there. Energy splits again. One part defending, one part proving, one part shrinking, one part plotting. The present remains untouched, the flame does not. Then comes work. There is no difficulty, no pain, only a whisper. Rest, later, comfort. Now energy turns inward and argues with itself. One part wants depth, one part wants ease, one part fears effort, one part fears waste. Nothing blocks action, but nothing moves. The flame flickers. By evening, noise appears. Sports, trends, names, stories that do not belong to this life. They are not interesting, they are not meaningful, but scattered energy looks for somewhere to go. So it goes outward, not for pleasure, but because it can no longer stay whole. By night, there is exhaustion without work, fullness without substance, thinking without clarity. The human being wonders what went wrong. Nothing did, no tragedy occurred, no enemy appeared, only this. With each encounter, energy divided itself, and a divided energy cannot live deeply. The world did not scatter the human being. Encounters did not steal anything. Each moment simply revealed the habit of fragmentation. A mind that comments, compares, remembers, projects cannot remain whole. And wholeness is not peace, wholeness is power. When it is gone, life feels thin. So, suffering is not pain, suffering is division. Silence is not created, it remains when energy stops arguing with itself. That is all. Nothing in life is actually disturbing. No glance invades you, no word wounds you, no moment demands interpretation. What disturbs is the habit of division. A single, undirected energy encounters something and immediately turns inward, splitting itself into meaning, memory, desire, fear, and comparison. That split is felt as thought. That thought is felt as conflict. Peace does not disappear, it is broken into arguments. When encounters are no longer claimed, energy no longer divides. And when energy is whole, there is no self to be in conflict with. Nothing needs to be fixed, nothing needs to be added, only division needs to be seen. That is all.